Hi, gang. Donna here. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with Enrico Ravenna. He's a male model who is a recent college graduate that made the Dean's List 5 times. We talk about his life as a model and what it takes to look as good as he does. He also discusses his new job, his love of cycling, and what he likes to watch on Netflix, and his ideal date with his wife. Stay tuned. So, hello, Enrico. How are you doing today?
I am doing fantastic. How are you doing?
I am doing fine. So, I want to do a little diving. I know for my audience, how I met Enrico was because I was looking for a cover model. And while he may not look it here, he kind of imbibed Michael Hutchins because one of my characters is based on Michael Hutchins. So, me and a friend were looking and we found Enrico and I was like, okay, let's reach out to him. So, I decided he's more than a pretty face, especially after doing some research 5 times on the Dean's List.
Yes.
How hard was that?
I believe that I'm one of those people that believe that uh, there are no shortcuts for doing something right, right? So if I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it well. So school, is with other things, I did my best, and I wouldn't have it any other way. I think that if you're gonna do something, do it well. Give it your all. I'm an all or nothing kind of guy. I'm either 100% in or I'm zero. Like I am absolutely out. So it was hard. I mean, school is not easy. Even like really amazing students have their own challenges and have their struggles from time to time. I graduated with honors, so that was fun. Yeah, obviously, being on the dean's list helped.
Yeah, and I mean, congratulations because you just graduated.
Yes, yeah, in May. Yeah.
Yeah. What did you major in?
Political science and international business.
Interesting. Is there any particular reason why you went with that degree?
Ooh, that's a great question because that's actually the reason why my hair is shorter. I actually recently cut my hair like 2 weeks ago. Um, and that's because I'm going into the whole nonprofit world.
Okay.
I'm actually starting a position July 26th. So I've been interviewing for this position for quite a while now, and I just got the job offer and I accepted. So it's a pretty exciting weekend for me because I accepted a job offer. My wife and I are going to Italy next month, so for 2 weeks. So my starting date is basically a day after I get back from Italy.
Wow. Well, congratulations. What is the nonprofit for?
It's basically what it does. It's called the IAC. It's the Israeli American Council, and it's an Israeli advocacy organization that basically deals with education and strengthening the relationship between Jewish Americans and Israelis, and kind of builds that community around that sense of belongingness and that idea. So I mean, it's a lot of activism stuff, a lot of public speaking, a lot of long-term engagement, relationships, people, which I like people. So
Well, you seem like a very people type of person.
thank you.
Um, so besides the modeling, let's go here. Why did you get into modeling? Did you just fall into it, or how did it all happen?
I'm gonna make you laugh right now. My wife kind of pimped me out for it. That's we've been married for almost 7 years now,
Uh huh.
and about I think it was like either late 2014 or early 2015, something like that. She said, "You should model." I was like, I don't know. I've never been that kind of type. Like, modeling was never something that I wanted to do or even related to. It was like so far fetched. And she was like, you should totally do it. I think, you have the looks. I feel like you can be, you can do it. And she took some digitals of me, and then she started applying for all these like modeling agencies. And uh, it worked. Like I got, a call back from Elite Miami,
Nice.
from an agency here in Atlanta, in New York, LA. I've been, yeah, so it's like, oh, okay, this is actually working. So that's kind of how I started it.
Reese kind of Reese had kind of the same. thing happened to him because they had the Make Me a Supermodel contest in Australia, kind of like America's Next Top Model. And his mother and his girlfriend at the time, who's now his wife, said, "Hey, you should do this." And he's like, "Nah, I don't want to do this." And so he decided he was going to sneak and go do it. And he won it out of 40,000 people. So,
That is amazing. That is so amazing. I feel like with male models, it's usually someone else kind of directing you in that, guiding you in that direction, because males, we're not like, we're really, I feel like that's something that most people don't get about us. It's like we're really just normal dudes, like we're we're dudes. Like we have our, what you would think about a traditional guy. Like that's really what we are. I mean, other than like working with some amazing photographers, we love cuddling on the couch, and we love eating donuts, and we just love binge watching Netflix, and like we really are just very normal, ordinary people.
well, I think that's just not with the modeling. It's with rock stars, actors. Everybody puts you guys on a higher pedestal. Like, oh my gosh, you must just be perfect. And no, I know you make mistakes, and I know you're human, and you do all those wonderful things too. I have a friend who's very straight laced, and she'll kill me for saying this, Cammy. Shh. But I showed her your picture, and I have never heard her react about anybody. She's always been, and she's like, "Oh wow, he's hot." I'm just like, I've never heard you talk about a guy like that. So sorry to
Thank
fangirl,
you.
but yeah. So you do have a lot of people that look at you and go, "Wow, he's amazing." So definitely, model was a calling for you.
Thank you. I
Definitely.
appreciate it. Actually, modeling kind of took me into the acting world as well. So I did quite a bit of acting. I mean, I've been in on a lot of on multiple indie, independent films, and I've worked because of my background in Krav Maga. So I was in the Israeli Special Forces, and I was a Krav Maga instructor. I did a lot of stunts too. So like I did stunts on the CW show, the originals, and
Really?
yeah. Have you ever watched that
Oh
show?
yeah, I actually got to meet
Okay, so
Joseph Morgan.
Jackson, Jackson,
Yes,
the
yes, I know
werewolf.
Jackson. Yeah,
Because we look very similar,
I
right? Like
can
we
see
have very
that.
similar looks. I did a lot of his stunts, and I stood in for him quite a bit for like 2 seasons. Um, it was fun. I mean, I'm actually going to be in a short film filming in LA in August. So
Nice.
it's I'm kind of like, although I'm starting this new job, and it's a full-time job, and it's a career path that I'm trying to pursue, I'm still going to be doing a lot of the modeling, acting, kind of like on the side for fun, just for pure fun.
I saw you on. Well, I saw a clip of it. I didn't actually watch it. The Chrisleys. I can't even think of the whole name of the show.
Chrisley knows best, yeah.
Yes, yes, because I've never watched it, but I saw a little bit of a clip. So how was? I mean, it's scripted, correct?
Chrisley knows best. No, it's a reality. It's a
Okay.
reality TV show. They I was just the Italian dude, the Italian guy, because I am Italian. I'm Italian, Israeli. So
Mm-hmm.
but no, it wasn't scripted
Okay.
at all. It was all kind of like
Well,
just
I mean,
feel the moment type thing.
because sometimes people say, okay, reality TV scripted. So that's why I was asking, because things are edited certain ways to make you look a certain way. So that's why I was
Yeah.
asking.
I think I will say I am willing to go as far as to say it definitely wasn't scripted, but it was, some of it is guided, right? Like, is
Okay.
obviously
Yeah.
you can say whatever it is that comes naturally to you in the moment. Like, they're not going to tell you what to say, but obviously it is directed into a certain direction.
So it's more like improv in a way.
Yeah, 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 pretty
Yeah,
much.
because you're like given the scene in improv and then told, okay, this is kind of what you need to do. Go with it.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Exactly.
So you used to be a cyclist, did you not?
Yes, I was. So how do you know that, by the way?
It's all on the internet, dude.
Okay, so okay.
I do my research.
So
If I'm gonna be
I
serious, I gotta do my research.
I was that's true. From the age of 8 to 18, up to my military service, I was a professional cyclist. I competed in Israel and in Europe. I was the Israeli champion twice, 2004, 2006. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I still cycle today. I have my bicycle here. I mean, I actually did 2 hours this morning.
Do you ever still compete, or just that's just for fun now?
Competing is a whole different level of commitment, right? Like when you're competing, like you have to be at a certain level, otherwise you'll fall behind, and it's just one of those things where like you're just gonna disappoint yourself in a sense that I'm not racing competing currently, but if I get to a point where I actually train enough, because I'm going to have to be on the bike like 20 hours a week at least
Wow.
to be able to compete. So, but I mean, I'm actually about to become a member of the USA Cycling Association. So, I mean, I might compete.
Well, even if you just compete locally and not hardcore, I mean, it's still, if you enjoy competing, then do it. If not, just enjoy the ride,
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's just it helps me honestly. Cycling just helps me stay in shape. One of the things that a lot of people don't realize is that models are human too, right? And a lot of times, we really don't stay in shape. Like we get in shape for a specific photo shoot, or if we know about a photo shoot ahead of time, or if we have a season, right? Like the modeling season, for example, 2016, I lived in Miami for like 4 months in the winter because the Miami season is during the winter. So obviously you train for that season and you remain in pretty good shape for that season. But we're just like other people. Like we can't stay in shape year long. I mean, staying ripped, a 6-pack, 8-pack, 10-pack year long, that's not humanly possible without taking some pharmaceuticals or enhancers. That's just not possible, and most of us don't want to do that because we don't want to get too big for camera. So we really just get in and out of shape, right? Like you might contact me at a point where I'm completely out of shape, and I'll say like, okay, I need 8 weeks. Like from this point, I need 8 weeks to get in decent shape, right?
Yeah. And I mean, it's I appreciate the fact that you're actually saying we're human in more ways than one, because it takes some of the stigma out of it. People think that you guys, my one friend says about good looking guys that they're drama and a headache, because because all they want to do is work out. That's the perception, that for somebody to look as good as you do, that you have to work out all the time. But you also have to have a life. So I understand where she's going, because some guys are so dedicated at the gym that that is their life.
Yeah, you were absolutely right. I think maintaining a certain physique requires it's high maintenance. It is really high maintenance. I mean, and most models do it uh, because they just have to. I can tell you that as much as I love working out, and I've been a gym rat like for many years, and as much as I enjoy the gym, I don't enjoy it 7 times a week. I
Yeah.
enjoy it 3 times a week. But with 3 times a week, you're not going to be able to maintain that physique, right? Like if you need to get into if you need to go down to 8% body fat, like that's just not going to cut it. Like you're going to have to work a lot, and diet is the really main factor here. um, you're going to have to be on a very 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 strict diet for quite a while, which is mentally burning, right? Like it's
Yeah.
mentally exhausting, it's mentally draining. I mean, I can tell you that we get to points where we're just not social because we're so hangry all the time
Hmm.
that we have terrible cravings, and we're just we're weak, we're tired, we just want to go do the gig and go back home and chill on the couch. Like seriously, it's some very rare few are extremely lucky genetically speaking, right? So they're able to just stay very very lean with a fairly low amount of maintenance. Like they're not going to have to work as hard as I will.
Hmm.
But those are very rare few. Like there aren't that many people that can do that, especially as we get older, right? So I started modeling when I was 24. Now I'm 30. You know, now I'm 30. So my body obviously is not responding as fast, right? Like what used to take me 8 weeks now takes me 11 or 12 weeks,
Yeah.
right? Like now longer, and it's not, and we love food too. Like some of us, you have to remember, we come from different cultures, different countries. Like we're not all just plain American, right? So like for example, ethnically speaking, I'm Italian Moroccan, right? I was
Okay.
born and raised in Israel, but I'm half, ethnically I'm half Italian, half Moroccan. Both very, very food oriented cultures, right? Like food is a part of my soul. Like
Mm-hmm.
I love food. Food is a part of who I am. So, telling me that I can't eat something that's absolutely delicious is going to take its toll on me over time, right? Like depriving myself or denying myself foods that I want to eat is going to be very, very difficult to do for,
Oh, yeah.
extended periods of time. That's
Yeah. I went, not that you need to know this, but my last year I went on a diet because my husband passed, and I'm like, okay, you can eat your grief or you can
Oh,
diet.
sorry to hear that.
It's okay. Um, and I had to make that decision. So I went on a diet, and yeah, at a certain point, I'm like, okay, this is not sustainable because I kept the weight off, but this is not sustainable because there's certain things I'm going to want to eat as a normal human being. And all that's going to do is just make me want it more. And then when I eat I'm going to want more of it. And it's nasty. So if you try to work where you're eating at least a little bit of what you like.
Yeah, you can do that. Don't get me wrong. I mean, it's not
Yeah.
that it's not doable. It's just that when you look at us in the pictures, right, like that we
Hmm.
take, do we look like mediocre people?
No.
That's the point. The point is,
Yeah.
sure, yeah, I can eat a little bit of what I want here and there, like a little bit here, a little bit there, never nothing too crazy. But then I won't be as ripped as you need me to be for your bug cover shoot. Like I'll also be more. I won't give you my 100%. I'll give you my 85,
Right.
right? Which means I'm not as ripped, which means I'm not as defined, which means I'm not as, So sure, yeah. The thing is, you kind of have to be all or nothing here because
Hmm.
the midway, the moderation range doesn't provide
For you.
that level of physique that you need. Like you can't be moderate. Like when
So what kind of head games does this play on you?
what kind of what
Head games.
head game?
Self-esteem. Does this affect, to being a model?
Oh,
Are
oh,
you
oh, okay,
harsh
okay,
on
okay, got it.
yourself? Are you harsher on yourself about your appearance than outside forces?
Absolutely. Let me tell you something, and I feel like yeah. Go, please ask me all the like hardest questions
I'm
because I love
trying.
those questions. This is one of my biggest missions is to really show the world that models are just regular humans, like we really are. Modeling, in a sense, messes with you. It messes with your head because once you get to a certain shape and you work with these amazing photographers all over the world, it puts you in this image where like now you've reached now this is your standard, right? Like now
Hmm.
my standard is so high,
Hmm.
that when I don't meet that standard, I feel bad about myself, right? Like I can be in better shape than 99% of the people, but because I'm not in my best shape, I'll feel bad about it, right? Like I won't even want to go to the pool and take my shirt off because it's not my best, because it's not what I am used to. So like now that I know that I can look like that, I
Yeah.
always want to look like that, right? That's what I want. I want to look like that, but it's not doable to look like that year long. Like it just isn't. But it does mess with you. I mean, absolutely.
Well,
It yeah.
go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, it messes with your self image, with your like confidence, right? Like now, like I know I can look a certain way, and if I don't, like I just feel like I'm always bringing my not my 100% to anything.
One thing you have to consider, and I'm going to say this as an older person because I look back at pictures of me from 20 years ago and think, I was told by him, I was scouted back when I was 19, so quite a while ago. And they told me, well, you need to lose 10 more pounds. And I was just like, I was already underweight and I didn't do it. But I look back at those pictures and it's like, I was healthy. I looked fine. Now I look at them and go, gosh, I wish I looked like that still. So I guess be kind to yourself because as you age, you can't help how your body changes.
That's
You
true. No,
can't.
I mean, I'm actually really, I'm fine with it. But I make it a point to communicate that, right? To
Mhm,
anyone I work with, right? Because when you're seeing a picture of me, that picture, I might have taken that 4 or 5 years ago,
mhm,
right? And that picture, I might be close to it, but I'm no, usually what I do is I cut my hair, to like now I'm kind of have it pulled back a little bit, but I get it like I call it like a summer cut, like it's a little bit,
mhm.
more airy and nice and flow. And then by next, but give it 6 months and it's back to a man bun and all that stuff. But so that's usually what I do, but with my hair specifically. But so that's something that you'll like any kind of change in your appearance is something that you always have to communicate with anyone that wants to work with you. But I'm also, I've life has taught me to like take it easy on myself. Like I'm really not. I, there's very little that bothers me. Like very very few things that bother me or like that I lose sleep over. Like I really don't. It is what it is type thing. Like I'm not getting any younger. I mean everything is slower. It's fine. I mean, hey, I become wiser as I get older.
My hubby always said, "Go with the flow."
Yeah,
So there
I,
you go. Go with the flow.
absolutely, absolutely.
um, Reese actually said because he's 37, and Reese actually said that he's doing more modeling now than when he won. So as you age, and I'm sure this will be true for you, you most likely will become a silver fox, dare I say, because as long as you keep at it and then you want to continue to do it, you'll be able to. Now,
Yeah,
do
it's
you?
one of those industries that is kind of funny in that sense because uh, like okay, so the male shelf life is a lot longer than the female shelf life, right? Like
Yes.
and that's why females also get paid a lot more than males, right? Like I've been in in gigs or jobs that I might have gotten paid $1,500 for that day, but the girl model that's doing the exact same thing I'm doing with me for the same number of hours got paid 5 grand for the day, right? Like that's how much more they get paid. But like they also have a much shorter shelf life, like you said, the silver fox thing, right? Because if you I when I'm 40, I'm I can do the catalog, the yacht catalog, right? Like I can
Mm-hmm.
stand there on the yacht and look, like I own the yacht, but the girl next to me is still going to be 19. So
Yeah. Yeah.
like, it's just the fact, it's the truth about this industry. I mean, this industry is honestly like pretty brutal. It's a
Yeah.
brutal industry. I mean, it's not a you have to either develop or have a thick, very very thick skin to survive in this industry because it's not formal, right? Like there is nothing formal about it. People a lot of times are very brutal. I mean, I've been in castings where 20 guys stand in a line and the casting director walks in and starts just criticizing our looks, right? Like, oh, what's up with that nose? Oh, eyebrows, whoa, wax. Like, what is it? You need to drop 10 pounds. Like, just literally walk one by one and tell you what's wrong with you, right? Like, that is, and you just have to take it. Like, there's nothing you can do about it. He's the casting director. Like, you're standing there, and if you don't feel like being there, you don't have to. But if you want to be there and you want to get the job, then those are things you just have to be okay with. Now, I'm not saying all of them are like that. I'm saying they do exist out there, right?
What is how does that make you feel? I mean, when someone says something like that to you, like you need to lose 10 pounds or you need to, your nose isn't right or eyebrows, I mean, how do you feel after somebody says that to you?
You know, I I don't take it personally. Like
Okay.
I really like I don't. It doesn't bother me that much. But that's also because I started modeling fairly late in life, right? Like a lot of the guys I worked with or even roommate with when I lived in Miami because we worked together were a lot younger than I was. I mean, and I've been in the military. I served in the military. I was a combat soldier, and I Krav Maga instructor. I'm still in the reserve. I still have reserve duty in Israel. You get to a point where it really doesn't get to you. Like it didn't really get to me. If a casting director looked at me and said you need to drop 10 pounds, I was like, okay, Cool.
So, I also read that you are a licensed private detective.
I am, yeah, I am.
That's definitely, when you look at the grand scheme of what we've been talking about, that's like way out there comparatively speaking. So, what made you decide to do that?
Uh, wow, I have to tell you a really long background story about that. Okay, so in one of my acting, I'm gonna make it as short
Okay.
as I
No,
can.
it's
Okay,
fine. Go ahead. Go ahead.
in one of my acting classes, I've met a girl that later became kind of like my sister. Like we became really good friends, and I met her family, and she, my wife, and she developed like a relationship, and it became we basically nurtured that relationship. And her dad owns an investment firm here in Alpharetta, Georgia. And at that time I was doing I was doing paycheck to paycheck, because not really when I say paycheck to paycheck, I mean gig to gig, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
basically going from modeling gig to modeling gig, doing things like that. He asked me if I wanted to work for him, and I happily said yes, and gratefully said yes, because he also knew that I was an actor and he knew that I was a model. So he was very like supportive of it. So if I needed to go on castings, auditions, he was very, very understanding. Um, and I started the position I actually started with was I was a marketing coordinator for his firm. But when he found out about my military background, he asked me if I wanted to build a security system in the company, right? So like because back then it was still a fairly small company, but it was growing very, very
Mm-hmm.
quickly. And he didn't have any kind of security, and he said, look, I need we need security. Like it's not just cameras, it's everything. It's background checks, it's key fobs, it's keys, it's you know doing the whole, basically, the whole thing. So that's what I did for him for quite a while, and he paid for me to get my private investigator's license. He sent me to basically said, go
Mm-hmm.
to school, get your certificate, pass the state test, and get it, so I could run background checks on people, and I could basically be his own like in-house PI. So that's what I did for him. I did take some clients on the side kind of thing. Like I did do
Mm-hmm.
some interesting stuff, but I was mainly an in-house private investigator for him. Yeah.
So, what made you move from Israel to Milan?
Okay, so what happened was I finished my military service when I was 22, and I started college. I started going to college. And then after my first year of college, my mom passed away
I'm sorry.
from cardiac arrest. It was pretty sudden, like
I'm sorry.
nothing we could do about it. She passed away, and my mom and I had an amazing relationship. Like she was my mentor, she was my northern star in the sky, right? Like we had this amazing, relationship. And when she passed away, it was hard on me, right? Like it was really, really just
Yeah.
like, what? Like how? Like I'm 23, like, and she was my best friend. Like what? She was beyond a mom at that point. Like it's way beyond a mom. Like it's at that point I didn't need her like financial support. I just needed her like mental
Yeah.
support. I
Yeah.
wanted her presence in my life, right? So I decided to just stop college and use my Italian citizenship to just move to Italy. I decided that I needed a change, right? Because what happened was I tried going back to my second year of college, my sophomore year, but I just couldn't do it mentally. I was just not there. I was still mourning, for my mom's loss. I was grieving. I was not mentally, I was just not there. I couldn't, I like couldn't do it. Just couldn't stay in school after losing my mom. And basically, I decided that I needed a 180-degree change. Decided to pack my bags and just move to Italy, and that's what I did.
And speaking of someone still dealing with grief, grief is not something that you get a handle on just like that and it's over. Even when you moved, I'm sure you were still dealing with that stuff.
Yes, yes, absolutely. But I think moving changing environments and changing a language. Obviously, in Israel, I lived in Hebrew, and in Italy, I lived in Italian, right? And um, just meeting new people and listening to people's stories, it just reminds you, it puts your life in perspective because it shows you that everyone's dealing with something, right? Like, we're all humans, and in the end of the day, you can't believe those Instagram stories and Instagram pictures, and like, everyone has struggles and challenges, and no one lives a perfect life. There is no such thing. Like, we all fight to deal with our own insecurities, challenges, difficulties. And it was, I mean, for a while there, it was quite a challenge moving to Italy, because although I did speak Italian, but it was kind of like because my grandparents talked to me in Italian, but it wasn't like I didn't live in Italian, right? So there's a
Right.
big difference between, okay, I know how to speak it, and now I'm going to live in it, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And it's like when I first moved to America, right? Like, my English, I could always speak English very well, but for like 30 minutes, not 24/7, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So when you move into a new country with the new culture, new traditions, new customs, and ways of doing things, it's always gonna take its toll on you. Like, I used to, when I first moved to America, at 8 p.m. I would be absolutely mentally exhausted.
Wow.
Like, do not talk to me. My wife, I started speaking like half Hebrew, half Italian, not half, like third Hebrew, third Italian, third English with her. Like, I would say, like,
Mm.
I would say sentences that made absolutely no sense. Like, she was like, huh? Choose a language, Enrico. Choose a language.
I get that though. I mean, when I was on a movie set once, I'm originally from New Orleans, but I've lived in Dallas and Shreveport, so I've bounced around a lot, and I don't have my New Orleans dialect really anymore. However, I was on a movie set at like 1 o'clock in the morning, and I started talking, and when somebody's like, "Where are you from?" and I'm like, "New Orleans," they go, "We can hear it now because your
No,
accent is coming through." It's like, oh, and if I go back home, then yeah, the accent comes. Otherwise, I've been here for 25 years in Chicago, so yeah, it's kind of muddled. So I get that your accent when you're exhausted, your words, your dialect will all just meld together. So I get it
absolutely.
completely. Um, so let's see, what else can I ask you that's really really hard? So how many more acting gigs would you like to do? I mean, what kind of actor do you want to become? Do you want to be a leading man? Do you want to be a comedic actor? What would you like to really do?
Acting is an industry where it, it's one of those industries where, on every successful actor, right, there are thousands of actors that are not successful, and they can be amazing actors, right? Like, I know some actors that are absolutely extremely talented, extremely talented, but they're just, it is what it is. And a lot of times, it's not about what you know, it's about who you know, it's about your connections, it's about casting directors and vision for projects. And the thing is, there are different types of actors, right? Like, I'm one of those actors that, when I get cast, it's usually a typecast, right? It's usually because I really look the part. I really have that I'm not like, okay, for example, I can't play an all-American frat boy guy, right? Like, that's
Right.
just not a role for me. I can't, like, even if I'm an amazing actor, no, it's not going to be believable. So to me, that's kind of always been a struggle, because even if I had an amazing audition for a role, it's just, I'm very typecast. Like, it's just, I'm very specific. My look is very, very specific, and that's either gonna help me or hurt me, right? Like, I'm either
Mhm.
perfect for the role, or I'm absolutely, like, not the guy for the role, which limits you, right? Like, it puts you at a point where you're very limited when it comes to the roles that you can take. But with that being said, to your question, like, how many more I would like to do, I'm at that point in life where, when my agent sends me auditions, I'm if I feel like I have a good chance of getting it, and it's a pretty interesting role, then I'll do it. But I turn down a lot of auditions, because at this point, like, I already know the statistics are about, on every 150 auditions you might get one callback, right? Like,
Right.
or one thing, like that's you're gonna go through 150 auditions before you actually get one role. So, and I don't have that time right now. Like, I don't have the luxury of auditioning 150 times before I get
Right.
one role. So that's why if I know this audition is going to be a waste of my time, then I just don't do it. Like, if I know, look, I can do a good job on this audition, but honestly, it's probably not going to be me. So I'm probably gonna just give it up, right? Say like, it's fine. I'll just, And I'm also at a point in life where I don't need it financially, right? Like, a lot of actors really do it because they are couch surfing, right? Like, they're literally couch surfing from friend to friend, and they, you know,
Yeah.
live paycheck to paycheck, and they need to just make it work. I don't know, so they're waiters at restaurants until they make it, right? I'm fortunate enough to where I don't have to do that, right? Like, I'm starting this amazing new position that I'm super excited about. I've always had a job. I've always, I mean, it's I'm at the point where I don't need it financially, so I'm less motivated to pursue all these, auditions that I already know are going to be a waste of my time. Like, I already know that I'm not going to get the part. So it's yeah.
I get it. And I mean, the one good thing about being an actor now is there are a lot more opportunities. Not only just because of cable, because, coming back to the early 80s, you had three channels and then certain movie houses. Now that has expanded so much. But like you said, there are limitations because, if you look at a standardized romance novel, because there's a network called Passion Flicks. But your standardized romance novel has a hero that is a certain way and a villain that is a certain way, and you may not fit that casting. So I understand why you're not going to go out and say, okay, yeah, I'll take that role, even though the guy may supposed to be blonde. I'll take that role. So I get it. I mean, you have to do what's right for you, and you have something to fall back on. Now, when you're modeling, such as some of these book covers, like with Kayleen, do you consider that an acting role since you are playing a role? She gives you a character to play, does she not?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, especially with when it's customized shoots, right? Like, if it's when you're actually you have a shoot that's specifically for that book cover. The author, has a vision, right? So I make it a point to really work with the author to, like, kind of embody the character, and I read about the character, and I kind of figure out what the character is and what it's about, and some of its quirks, right? Like, some of its, characteristics. And Kayleen, for example, made it very, very, like, it was a really fun shoot. Honestly, those types of things I will keep doing for as long as people want me to keep doing them, because it's really not about the money as much as it's about the experience. And, like, for example, Kayleen is someone that I talk to her just for kicks, right? Like, I'll just text her and say, like, hey, how's it going? How's whatever, and we'll get into a conversation, because she's that awesome, right? Like, she's that
Yeah.
amazing. And I don't have to, like, but I want to, because she left that, you know she made that impact on me. So it's fun. It's something that you do for fun, for pleasure. And yes, I do my research on the character, especially because, like, for example, when it's a cover that requires both you and a female model, right? Like, and if you actually, like, if you have a love interest, right? Like, if you have it makes it that much more difficult when it comes to making it look real for the camera, right? Because if it doesn't feel real, then it won't look real,
Right.
right? Like, if you and then you have a female model there with you, and then you have to kind of set expectations, what you can do, what you cannot do, what where do we draw the lines, what I'm willing to do because I'm a married guy, what she's willing to do if she whatever has her background. It definitely adds a layer of one, commitment, to complexity, because now it's not just me in front of the camera. Now it's me working with another person, And again, the author has a vision for it. Like
Right.
that's what for example, with Kayleen, she wanted a specific thing, right? Like, but it's not just black and white,
Right.
because for example, in one of her books, the characters are not, they're a love interest, but they also have like their own difficulties and their own, like, they kind of play, they go back and forth with each other, and it's not really like they're not willing, they love each other but they're not willing to commit to each other. And then all of that, you have to show, you
Right.
have to radiate that, right? Like, you have to basically show. And that requires work. I mean, that requires really just giving it a good effort. And in the end of the day, it is acting.
Yeah.
Like, you do act. It's not just me with a six pack in front of a camera. It's a lot more complicated than that. So
Yeah, and I mean that's the thing about it. Some people think modeling is just modeling. Oh, I'm just going to go in front of a camera and I'm just going to pose and look cute. No, sometimes depending on like if you're working with another person or if you're showing a product. If you're modeling a product, even have you done any runway? I guess maybe that's a good question
yes.
too.
Yeah, I've done runway. It's just runway. I mean, look, I'm gonna be completely honest with you here. Like, runway just doesn't pay as much.
Oh yeah.
So runway, you really just do when you really have to. Like, when you really, really, really have to, and you have no other choice. So most of the runway shows that I've done have been because I did someone a favor, right? Like, because it was like, okay, one of the photographers that I've worked with, and they needed, guys to do a runway show, I don't know, in New York. And I've done runway shows in New York, in Tennessee, in Florida. um, and I never really wanted to do them. It was just because someone just needed it, and they were so good to me and kind to me that I was willing to just, go above and beyond to just help them out. Runways, I feel like, unless you're like on a runway in Milan, in Italy, like, unless you're doing that, most runways, even in New York, it's not gonna pay
Yeah.
as much as you need it to pay to be worth it. But also, I don't know if you've noticed, when you look at runway shows are also very specific, because there is a runway model type look, right? Like, most runway, and I'm talking about specifically male models in particular, they're not always, like, I guess, traditional looking. Like, some of them are very unique looking, right? Some of them are very, like, they're looking for unique characters types. So it's also, you might not fit the type that they're looking for. So
Yeah.
but yeah, I have to your question. I keep making your questions
No,
feel like long.
no,
I'm
that's fine.
sorry.
That no, you're fine. You're totally fine because this is giving people, that whole different perspective of what the modeling world is like, and I think that's a good thing, because there's so many women out there that look at you guys and go, "Wow, he's just perfect," and he has this whole career made and everything else, and it's like, no, you got to look at it. This is hard work. I mean, you have to work out. You have to watch your diet. You have to do certain things. So, besides Netflix and chill, what do you like to do for fun? And cycling, we know that too.
Like,
So,
you know, I love bonfires. I love grilling. I love reading books. I mean, most of the books that I read are like, for example, I'm reading a book called Harpoon now, and it's about, like, the money masters behind terrorism, right? Like,
okay.
behind, and it's that kind of books. But I love to read. I read every day, at least a chapter in a book. Um, you know, it's funny. I'll let you in on a little secret here. I started reading some of the books I'm on the cover of.
And
I stopped fairly quickly. I stopped fairly quickly.
uh-huh.
But I will
Was
say
there
this, it did give me some ideas though. So like,
was there a particular reason why you stopped very quickly?
my general rule of thumb for book
Hmm.
covers,
Hmm.
what I really care about is, okay, so for example, some people, especially because I live in the South, and most of my friends are fairly conservative, and they ask me like, what if someone wants you to be on a book cover and your character is gay, right? Or stuff like that. So I say, I don't mind if my character is gay at all. Like I really don't mind. What I do mind if it's that the book is not promoting any kind of hate,
Yeah.
right? So I never want to be on any book that promotes any kind of hate toward any kind of group of people. Like I will never be on a book that promotes that kind of stuff. So in that sense, I thought about it and I was like, oh, I have these books that we're on the cover of, and I graduated from school, so now I got more time to read books that I actually want to read, right? Like because in school, every semester you have like 20 books that you have to read for school, and a lot of them are very, very boring and dry. So now that I got the time to read books that I want to read, I decided to try and write some of those books that I'm on the cover of, and
A little spicy.
What is it?
A little spicy.
Yeah, it was a little. It was. Oh, okay. Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. I dig it. I'm like, okay, cool. Yeah. Don't get me wrong. I was like, I got into it, but, I'm obviously like, it was something where it was fun to read a little bit, and I'll go back and forth and read, another chapter here, another chapter there, but mainly, I go back to my own style of reading.
Yeah.
But yeah.
It's got to be a mind trip, though, to see you on the cover and think that the author had you as this character. And do you, how do I say this? Do you ever see yourself when you're reading this book going, okay, that's supposed to be me?
Oh yeah, you like once it's okay. So it's funny because let me get okay. So
No,
listen to this, right? Listen to this. One of the guys that Kayleen actually used for, I think, her first book is a really good friend of mine, Brandon Katz.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
That's the guy that
That
was funny, by the way. That was so funny when you sent me that picture, and I was like, I actually showed it to my wife, and I said, look, so this is the picture that she wants, and it was extremely funny because I was like, oh, that's Brendan. That's Brendan. That's actually not me in the picture, but
yeah, but I still your other pictures were awesome, so that's why I was like, I like him. Anyway, go ahead.
So Kayleen used him, and I read his book, the book that he's on the cover, right?
Yeah.
And I know him personally too because we were signed with the same agency, so we were both signed with Elite Miami. We talked. I mean, we developed this amazing relationship. I mean, amazing relationship. So now, I'm reading his book, and I have him in my, like when I read when I read the book, I think of him, right? And it's funny because he's married and they have a kid now. But so obviously I know who he is as a person, but you just can't disconnect that. Like you can't detach it. So when I read a book that I'm on the cover of, like, yeah, you think about yourself and you just can't not do it, right? Like it's very natural to do. So, but what the funny thing about it is, like, when you read the book and you realize what the author was thinking about, right? Like you're like, oh, okay, so that's what you think of me. Okay, that's what so that's how you see me. Okay. Honestly, I called Brendan and I was like, did you read your book? I was like, bro, did you read your book? You should really read your book.
Did he?
Especially because I told him, like, listen, we're going to see each other again. We're all going to be together in LA, in August. You have to read your book, man. Like, you have to read your book. It's going to be so much more fun if you read your book.
And did he?
I think he's in the process of reading it now. So it was... That is just, I'm laughing just thinking about it. Like, it is so hilarious.
Yeah, coming from the writer's perspective, my book Love Is Worth Waiting For, I started writing and I was thinking of Brad Pitt, and then I saw Christopher Mason. Okay. I don't know if you know Christopher Mason.
Yeah.
Blonde, yeah. So I saw Christopher Mason. I was like, okay, so Wes, the character, became Christopher Mason, and he's not on the cover, but it was just one of those things when you're an author, you get this person visually and you're like, okay, that's it. And then you go. And I don't know that we're actually thinking about you per se doing that, but I don't know. It's weird. And yeah, I often think because now as a single person, it's like, if I ever start, when I start dating again, if the guy I'm with reads my stuff, I,
I
I,
get it. It's it is though, it is in a way eye-opening because we as people, we just get caught, in our own day to day and our own stuff, and we just that's again, that's like if your, viewers, readers, whatever you want to call it, like if they get one thing from me is that we're all human, right? Like please get that. Like models, actors are not superhuman. Like we're not, we are so damaged, and like we have our own difficulties and our own, emotional baggage that we come with, and it's not, we struggle, we have, days where we don't want to see anyone, don't want to talk to anyone. And you know in a sense, we're very normal. Like we are very, very normal, like what you're reading. And I know that, like when you read it and you see the picture, and the picture looks so good, right? Like you look like this bad boy rock star, right? Like you look like it, but we're not. Like
yeah.
we are really not. Like if you knew Brandon, and he looks like a total rock star. Like he has the really long hair, right? Like his hair is really long. Even me, when I have my men bun, my hair only goes down to like maybe here, right? Like
Hmm.
maybe my collarbone, right? Like, I mean, even when I have a man bun, I never get it longer than that. But he really looks like a rock star, right? Like he has that rock star, he doesn't know how to play a guitar, but when he holds a guitar, he looks like he was born with it, right?
Hmm.
But if you knew him, like when you get to know him, you're like, oh wow, you couldn't be farther away from it. You couldn't be any farther away from it. Like it's me as well. Like I'm a homebody. Like I am really a homebody. Like there is nothing in this world that I love doing more than spending quality time with my wife. Like let me cuddle on the couch with my wife, and that is the best thing I can ever do. We have a holiday. We made a holiday. My wife and I made a holiday, and it's called the Day of the Cuddles. Why?
Nice.
It's because we it's a specific day in the year that we had such great cuddles, like the best cuddles we've ever had, that we decided to just make it a holiday. This is the Day of the Cuddles, and that on that day we always make it an effort to make it the best cuddle day ever, right? I mean, we love food, we love pizza, we get out of shape, we just, we and people think like, oh, you get paid so much to just stand there and look good. And nobody thinks about the fact that it takes us 2 months to get to look like that, right? Like, even like, okay, let's say you book me for this photo shoot and you give me, 2.5 months in advance, right? It's going to take me 2.5 months to get into the shape you need me to be in. So that means you're not really paying me for a day. You're paying me for 2.5, 3 months of me having to work for it. Like that's what people don't realize. Like this industry is not as glowy and not as like sparkly as people think. Like it really is not. It puts people in like deep depressions, and it messes up with people's minds. It's physically hard, mentally hard. I mean, long days on set. You might be on set for 18 hours because you have to get all the specific shots, and you can't eat anything during that time because you can't be bloated, you can't have food in your stomach, you have to be super flat, super lean, super, you can't be it is. And it's a very both mentally and physically draining day, and that's putting aside all the months in advance that you had to prep for it, right?
Yeah.
So it's that's why when people look at it from the outside, it's easy to just not realize all these things, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they don't realize that I can on a Friday with my wife, binge watching The Hobbit or The Lord of the Rings. I can eat 2 dozen donuts and a family size pizza, and it wouldn't even like I wouldn't blink an eye for it,
Well,
right? Because that's just what we, that's
yeah.
just what we do. Like
Yeah.
we're human. Again, we are human. Like we're totally just regular, normal people. And you look, some of us are. I will say this: some of us have more of that rock star personality than others, right? But some of us are very, very like just homebodies. Like I am not a rock star. I
But
am not a bad boy. Like I am not a bad boy. I've never, like me as a person, I've never had like one night stands, right? Like I've never
mhm.
had that. I've it's all I
but
want to do is just hang out with my wife. Like I don't care about other women. I don't care about like really. I just want to chill.
I get that, and I have to say two things about that. First, I just had an inventor on, and he told me, there's no such thing as an overnight success, and that's the same thing with what you're saying. You're working hard to get to that point to look good for that photo. The second thing is rock stars don't have all that swagger that we imagine. I've had a rock star flirt with me, and the rock star was as awkward as a high school boy ever could be. So I will say that, and it was rather amusing because in my mind I always pictured this guy to be so suave and debonair, and he was just as awkward as anything.
Yeah.
So, I mean that's the thing. We have this expectation or envision of what you're supposed to look like, what the actor's supposed to be, what the rock star's supposed to be. But in all honesty, you guys just have really cool jobs.
Pretty much. Yeah. Yeah.
So
And they're
besides,
not and they're not easy jobs, by the way. They're
no.
not like people think it's that low. It's actually really, really hard. Like it
Well,
is
I
really
mean,
hard.
I know you guys get grief because, oh well, you're just pretty. You're not working hard. But yeah, being on set for 18 hours with no food it's tiresome. I've been on a movie set for about 12 to 14 hours, and it gets to be a long day, you know. And when I worked on a TV production, we were working basically 24/7, and it was constant. And I was on call because I was a line producer, and it's like it didn't matter if it was 3 in the morning. If something went down and they needed me, I had to be there.
Yeah.
So just because you're in this industry, it's not an easy industry.
Oh,
That's why
not at
you get
all. Especially
paid
because there
decent
are no
money.
rules. There
Right.
are no. It's almost easier to be in a formal industry because then you know the expectations. You know what you can and cannot do. You know how to behave. You know the whole corporate behavior. Like you know exactly what to do. It's very dictated to you, right? Or it's very like easy to understand, right? But in this industry, everything goes. Everything goes. Like there are no rules. It is a non-formal industry. You can meet people that are extremely kind and amazing, and you can meet people that are going to make your life a living hell. I mean, it's just it is what it is type thing. And yeah, I mean, we're all just excited to be doing what we're doing. And I think the best thing that I got from this experience or from this industry as a whole is just the people that I met. I'm a big believer that relationships are what moves the world, right? And relationships are what makes your life
Yeah.
interesting and colorful, and meeting people like you, like Kayleen, like it is just so amazing, right? Like so like I'm telling you, like it's worth it just for those experiences, right? I mean, I I told her that I'm gonna have a regular job in August, like I'm
Hmm.
not and she made the effort to make sure that it's going to be on a weekend and we can all do it, all the models can meet up and do it. um, and I'm already like thinking about, all right, I need to stay in good shape. You're already like, I'm planning, like it's June 25th now, and I'm planning on that shoot, right? Like I'm already working
Right, right,
to
right.
make sure she's satisfied and happy. But because of how awesome she is, it's so worth it, right? Because I'm actually pretty excited to see her again.
Yeah, yeah.
It is one of those, like that's the best thing you can ever do, right? Like be that person that makes the experience so amazing. So like I feel like that's the best part about this job. Like the opportunity to meet such cool people. That's the best.
And I'm going to say you're very personal because when I reached out to you and you agreed to be on the podcast, I was like, wow, okay. I was very honored that you said yes, so I was thrilled. So I'm going to ask you one last question because I know some people will love to hear this. So what would your ideal date with your wife be? I mean, Netflix and chill, I understand, but if you could go anywhere and have the perfect date, what would it be?
Okay, that's actually a very very easy thing for me. Two things that are pretty much competing with each other. One, we have our favorite restaurant in Milan, in Italy. It's called Trattoria della Trebbia, and they have the best food. They have this like tagliata porcini, and it's phenomenal. And then we go to the Duomo, and like kind of like an evening of like really great food in our favorite restaurant in the world, which is in Italy, in Milan, and then go have a coffee underneath the Duomo and the skylights and the night sky. That will be a phenomenal thing to do for me. And then the second thing is to go to the bar where we met in Capri, on the island outside of the shores of Naples, right? And that's where we first met. So go back there and we do it fairly often. We go back and we go to the same places that we've been in, um, and kind of
Nice.
relive the whole thing.
Nice. 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 One last question. So, what do you like to watch on Netflix?
Ooh, I'm a big adventure guy, big adventure stuff. But I'm also like the Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, Hobbit, any kind of adventure stuff. Like any kind of like that's my jam. And I can binge those fairly often. Like I can, every 4 or 5 months, I'll be like, oh, let's do a, Lord of the Rings marathon. Let's do something like that.
Cool. Very cool. Well, I thank you for your time, and I'm going to say goodbye to my audience. You guys take care, and I hope you enjoyed meeting Enrico, and I'll catch you next time. Bye.
Bye, guys.
Thanks, guys, for tuning in to the Better 2 podcast. Your listenership is greatly appreciated. If you like what you hear, remember to hit subscribe. We also have our videos on YouTube. They're usually posted the same day as the podcast, and you should check it out. If you have a question or you would like to be a guest on the show, please drop me an email, and I'll be glad to talk to you about it. The email is Donna, Dauna, at thebetter2podcast.com. Thanks again for tuning in, and catch you next time.